Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a new week of the Daily Scrum. Kevin Rouch with you from Studio B in the Elmwood Media Complex. Today is Monday, June 1st. Glad to have you alongside today. And we got a lot to talk about. We're going to have a guest in kind of tough circumstances here in just a moment. Well, let's start out with talking a little bit about what's on the webpage today at cbussports.com. I just wrote another commentary all about this show and how difficult it is to describe the, what we do here is, I want to call it a radio show because I'm of that generation. Of course, we know it's just audio only on YouTube. And it's someday we're going to explore, is audio only better? Should there be some video? A lot of people will look at the host and say audio is probably better, but we can always revisit that. But right at the moment, we just want to make it easy for people to listen to. That was kind of the feedback we got early on, and that's what we're going to go. But on the website today, bunch of news. We did not catch up on one of them, and that is Denison. Unfortunately, we have them having won their first game, but they ended up losing 2 games yesterday, and they're out of the Division III Championship Series up in Eastlake, the World Series of D3 baseball. So a great season for Denison, but they fall yesterday in Eastlake a couple of times. In fact, the last game didn't get started till after 9 o'clock, and the team that they beat in the first game beat them in game 3. So that takes us to our next story, which is a little bit sad, to be honest. Well, a lot sad. John Burkus passed away. You probably don't know who John Burkus is, but my family does. He passed away at 54, taking his own life after really struggling with depression most of his adult life. But he was the producer of the show Sports Science. And you may remember they did some segments on ESPN during some broadcasts later on, but started, 20 years ago. No, about maybe 16 years ago, if I'm doing the math right. But John Burkus died on Saturday, and joining us now is the executive producer of this show, who has some familiarity with Mr. Burkus and his work. And let me get you set up, Alex. This is my son, Alex Rouch, our oldest. Alex, you there?
I am here. Hello.
Hey there. And I know I interrupted you out in the field, executive producing out in the field today.
I was going to say I don't have a lot of time to talk because I have been so busy executive producing. So.
Well, fair enough. Well, let's talk about this. And I don't mean to laugh because this is a serious subject. And again, you had some touch with it after playing football at Grandview. You went out to Chapman University out in Orange, California, in Orange County. And while you were there, because you were interested in TV and the movies and all those things, of course, being in Southern California will do that for you. But you knew that before you even went out there. But you had a chance to be on Sports Science. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was during one of the summers where I was staying out in California for the majority of the summer. Kind of training for football coming up, that season in the fall, and just being out there to have a little bit of fun as well. But during that time, I remember actually I was searching on Craigslist for ways to be an extra in, movies that may be shooting. I hadn't moved up to Los Angeles yet and learned different ways to figure those things out. So at the time, Craigslist was my best shot. And they were I didn't know it was Sports Science at the time that I was posting it, but there was a post needing football players and specifically a quarterback for some kind of reality show, it said. So I really didn't have a lot of information. And they did, I believe, warn it wasn't going to be a, super highly paid opportunity, but there was going to be an opportunity to meet some professional athletes. And it all sounded great to me. So I submitted a couple pictures and let them know, my statistics from high school and things like that. And ended up getting a call from them a few days later, and that's when I found out it was for the show Sports Science. And what they basically did was they had rented out a very nice, I believe it was a very nice high school field, or it may have been a community college, but it was a very nice turf field right in downtown Los Angeles. And what they did was shoot the entire season's worth of segments with professional athletes over the course of a weekend, because everyone was in town for the ESPYs, ESPN's award show. So they had that opportunity with all these players being in the same place at one time to, like I said, shoot, I don't know, probably 12 to 15 episodes worth of material in 3 days. So my job in helping with those segments was just being the guy who throws the football to, participate in any drill that they were shooting, or scientific thing they were trying to prove. If someone needed to throw a ball to be a part of that experiment, so to speak, that would be me. So for that season, I was pretty much the only guy throwing the football on camera, which wasn't necessarily a huge part of every single segment, but definitely added up to be a good amount of participation for me, and getting not only to meet the athletes that were there, but get to work with them as well was a lot of fun.
So just to name drop a little bit, name a few of the guys, or a couple of the guys, or one of the guys, whatever you're comfortable with, that you got a chance to throw to.
Yeah, so it's weird how fast, time flies, thinking about how big these names were at the time. They've kind of been replaced somewhat by just, a newer crop of stars, but all these guys were definitely Pro Bowlers at the time. TJ Hushmanzada, who was mainly a standout for the Bengals as a receiver. I also, my main, I guess, work that I did, or where they needed me the most to throw, was for a segment with Larry Fitzgerald, who I'm surprised actually isn't still playing.
He probably wants to, knowing him, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he's in at least a flag football league somewhere, but now he ended up being in the NFL for some crazy amount of years, more than a dozen years, I think, and productive that whole time. But some other people that were there were Kellen Winslow Jr. also, Marcus Trufant, who was a cornerback, Chris Jenkins, who was a defensive lineman and one of the biggest human beings I've ever met in real life. Vernon Davis was a tight end and I guess kind of a receiver as well for the 49ers at the time. Trying to think. Drew Brees was there in a rare time where I was not at the field, but he was in that season as well. And I think I actually arrived as he was finishing. So I don't remember meeting him specifically, but definitely remember people chattering when I got there about how amazing he did in his segment where he was throwing at a actual bullseye with a football that had paint on the tip of it, and just how amazing he was at hitting the dead center bullseye with it from like 30 yards away, like time and time again. So there was just a lot of cool stuff going on. And I guess, with John, he was, I believe, if I recall, he was also the executive producer of the show.
Right.
And that was pretty obvious. Being there, I did meet him briefly, and then was around him kind of off and on throughout the shoot. He was a very professional, very nice guy. He was, like I said, the reason it wouldn't be hard to believe that he was an executive producer when we were there is just how involved he was with each segment. And he wanted himself to be involved as much as he could with the experiments as well. I remember him getting dragged by Chris Jenkins on the ground, like holding the end of a harness like he was water skiing, and Chris Jenkins would explode out of a 3-point stance and run, and he dragged John on the ground for like 20 yards, and he just got the skin off of both of his forearms. It was actually kind of brutal at the time, but
Yeah.
he was game for everything. And I mean, I remember them refusing a few things that he was always wanting to do more and be on camera more, and be a part of it rather than just kind of being the host who introduced things and did the bumpers. He definitely wanted to take part in as many of the experiments that they did on camera. So,
well, and it just talks about, and certainly our family is not foreign to just what mental illness can mean and how difficult it is. But it sounded like he struggled for a long time, and especially after he sold the business, just probably got lonely. We all know that, and we hope you'll get back to Hollywood and in your career and all the things that you were doing before the COVID outbreak. But you can certainly understand, getting away from the thing that means so much to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a sad thing to hear about, and it's I'm sure there's a lot of people sharing memories of him and the times that they spent with him while he was here. And I'm sure it's a lot of positive stuff. He was a very positive guy to be around. So yeah, it's a sad thing.
Well, I'm going to let you go back to executive producing, but I wanted you to weigh in just because you had that unique experience of being part of sports science. And if people really want to see, you can see Alex actually on the Larry Fitzgerald. He was prominently kind of 1 second, 2 second here and there throwing to Fitzgerald, who was showing his range in terms of how much he could catch. They compared it to like the woolly mammoth or something, I think was the scientific part of it. But thanks, Alex. And I'm sure we'll see you back here on set soon with just all kinds of gets.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I will get back to the executive producing, but I hope to talk to you soon.
All right, man. Talk to you in a little bit. Bye now.
Bye.
That was our executive producer and my oldest son, Alex Rouch, who was on Sports Science, talking about John Burkus, who very unfortunately passed away and committed suicide on Saturday. When I talk about mental illness, because I've been around it a lot, I am an OCD person that has been treated for that successfully. And because of that, you experience a lot of depression in your own life. Certainly not what John Burkus was facing, but I certainly understand what he went through. And wow, just hit you when it's somebody, and in my case, it was one person removed, but knew a lot about him and kind of followed him after Alex had the experience out there some 15, 16 years ago. So rest in peace, John Burkus. We will think about you whenever we combine science and sports, and we do that a lot. All right, let's get on to today's news. The national news, well, the NBA playoffs are just around the corner after the Pacers took care of the Knicks in Indianapolis in Game 6. They will play the OKC Thunder, who won their series against Minnesota 4-1. So the first game will be on Thursday. That's June 5th, Thursday, 8:30 p.m., and that'll be on ABC TV. So the Pacers and the Thunder kick off their series, and we'll have a new champion. Neither of those squads has won an NBA championship. So that starts Thursday. The NHL is a rematch of last season. It'll be Edmonton and Florida. They'll start Wednesday, June 4th at 8 p.m. That'll be on TNT. Now, last year went to 7 games. Edmonton had a lead going in to the third period, but got outscored 3-1 by Florida as the Panthers won it 6-5 in Game 7. And one of the facts that will be talked about going into this championship series is the fact that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl combined for only one goal in that championship series last year. I've got to say the role that they're on, I'll take the over on one goal for that duo going into Wednesday. Again, that starts on TNT at 8 o'clock. Wednesday, NBA, on Thursday on ABC. All right. Looking as we do at our first webcast of the week with Major League Baseball, the American League leaders in the East, the Yankees, the Central, the Tigers, the West, the Mariners, and the Tigers with the best record in baseball. In the West, Houston sneaking up on the Mariners, only a half game back of Seattle. The Guardians in second in the Central, they're 6 games back. They took 2 of 3 at home against the Angels this past weekend. They traveled to the Bronx to take on the Yankees starting tomorrow and going through Thursday with 3 games against New York. So look for that. And a bunch of guys that have either played on the Clippers this year or certainly within the last 2 years starting for the Guardians. So we always keep an eye on them. In the National League, it's the Mets in the East as they move past the Phillies. They're 8-2 in their last 10 are the Mets. In the Central, the Cubs with a big cushion. In the West, the Dodgers still in front, just 2 games ahead of the San Diego Padres. The Reds won the first game of their 3-game series at Wrigley Field this weekend, but then lost the next 2. They're 8.5 back of the Cubs. Only the Pirates are below the Reds in the Central this week. The Reds get started tonight against the Brewers at home, and they'll go through Wednesday. Wednesday is a 12:40 p.m. afternoon game. So note the earlier time on Getaway Day, Wednesday, for the Reds. A couple things from this past weekend that we wanted to talk about, just in the way of things you can tell people and seem maybe more knowledgeable. That's what I'm doing, more knowledgeable about the game than you are. But we were alerted to this by our good friend Ed Francis. We'll talk a little bit more about Ed in a minute. But the Washington Nationals at Arizona on Saturday, every batter for the Nationals scored a run before an out was recorded in the first inning. Now, in case you didn't hear that right, every National scored, the 9 in the starting lineup scored before an out was recorded in the first inning. The last time that happened, and I looked today to see if I could find the teams. I couldn't. The last time that happened was in 1883. 1883 last time. Every batter scored before an out was recorded at the beginning of the game. Thanks, Ed, for that nugget. He actually texted me over the weekend with that. I turned the game on, and it got worse from there. All right, the Dodgers and the Yankees in yesterday's game, and this is Buster Olney mentioned this in the pregame. Both teams had a starting pitcher, whose name began with the letter Y. It was Ryan Yarbrough for the Yankees, Yoshinobu Yamamoto for the Dodgers. The last time that happened was in 1924. Look for that as well. Didn't find it. If you find either one of those, the 1883 game where every batter scored before the first out was recorded, or the 1924 game where 2 starting pitchers had last names with the beginning with the letter Y. And when you think about it, 75% of the names started with the letter Y, with Yoshinobu Yamamoto having 2 and Ryan Yarbrough having 1. So thanks for the heads up on that, Ed Francis and Buster Olney. Local stuff now. All right, here we go. The Crew, and we're not going to talk about this one a lot today. We're going to talk more about it tomorrow. But the Crew fell to Inter Miami in South Florida on Saturday, 5-1. Only the Crew's third game or third loss this season. 2 of them to Miami, and the Herons jumped over the Crew into 4th place in the Eastern Division of the MLS, and the Crew fell to 5th place, and it was not good. Lionel Messi scored a couple of goals for Miami. Crew just defensively they just didn't look good. They're again without Patrick Schulte. But more than that, it really was a team falling down. Wilfried Nancy said that his team just wasn't very good. And I think that summed it up. But certainly on the defensive side, they just did not look effective at all and only scored one goal. But we'll break it down a little bit more for tomorrow, get some quotes and look at some stats and see where this team is going. Certainly trending down, unfortunately, but they'll be back at home. They get an extra week off. They'll play a week from Saturday at home against Vancouver. So they've got some time to think about it. We're going to try to get out probably next week to their training camp and maybe ask some questions and see if we can nail down what's going on exactly with the Crew. But again, they lost for the third time this season, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they have 7 draws, and that puts them in 5th spot in the East in Major League Soccer. Again, talk about that more tomorrow. Now, one of the things that was pretty cool coming out of the weekend was Ohio State's track and field team down in Jacksonville, Florida, and kind of a first round of the NCAAs. They qualified, just let me count this, I think 13 Buckeyes are headed to Eugene, Oregon this next week to take part in the NCAA finals. Tomorrow, again, we'll talk more. I wanted to highlight 4 of them because they're local athletes out of the 13. Noah Carmichael will be part of the 4x400 men's relay. He went to Cristo Rey Columbus High School. Denzel Fagan is part of the 4x100 meter relay. He is a Pick Central grad. DJ Fillmore will be in the long jump. He went to Licking Heights. And Mason Lewis, who we did a feature story on, if you go to CBus Sports and go to the search box, put in Mason Lewis, you'll see the story that we wrote about him during his senior year at Bexley, now sophomore at Ohio State. But again, he'll be part of that 4x400 meter relay. We'll talk about everybody tomorrow for Ohio State that is headed to Eugene, Oregon. Now, one thing I have to ask, Ohio State, which does such a good job on the media side and keeps everybody up to date, but I got to tell you, the track and field website could use a little bit of beefing up. Not a lot of details about these athletes. We did our own research, which maybe that's the point, but we would ask our friends at Ohio State, if you are the webmaster for the track and field team, if you could just give us a little bit more about high schools and other colleges where these folks have run or jumped or thrown something, that would be great. So just a little from me to you there. All right. Memorial Tournament wrapped up. And as we told you last week, it was kind of Scheffler versus the field, wasn't it? And it ended up being that way, although he was not, it wasn't a wire-to-wire thing. And I don't think that the Memorial has ever had a wire-to-wire winner. At least that's what the research shows. Scheffler won by 4 shots, and he is the second player now to go back-to-back. Tiger went back-to-back-to-back back in 99, 2000, and 2001. All right, here's my every week. The one thing I will say about Jack Nicklaus is you do not have to guess what he thinks, and that is a great thing for the media. I got 3 takeaways from him this week that are uppermost in my thinking. The first thing is, and I'm not saying this sarcastically, as a person that has been married now for 41 years, soon to be 42, he absolutely adores his wife, Barbara, who was the honoree this year. And again, I mean that sincerely, that is a great thing. Just the way he looks at her. If my wife looked at me that way, well, we'd have something now, wouldn't we? But he, when he speaks about it, they have pictures of the two of them, you can just tell that they are bonded, that she has been a big supporter of his, and she does so much in our community here and where they live in Florida. And That was the first takeaway. Second thing, he made it abundantly clear that he hates on-course interviews. In fact, I think if the quote was right that I saw, you had better not be the interviewer in that situation if he were the interviewee, because I thought he mentioned fisticuffs. I did. And I get it. I always wonder about that because it's such a concentration game, but maybe I've missed something. We'll ask some more people as time goes how they feel about it, but he does not care for it. And maybe the most important thing that he talked about yesterday was he thinks Scottie Scheffler is in a league of his own. He was very polite about it. Mr. Nicklaus said, these are all good players that came in, the rest of the top five. But Scottie, and I think he said Scottie knows he's in a league of his own. I'm not sure Scottie would say that, but Mr. Nicklaus did. And one thing that Jack Nicklaus did say, he said, quote, he's playing better than I played and more consistent. And that is something because Jack Nicklaus had a pretty consistent career. If you look up not only his first place finishes, but his second place finishes, it is remarkable. So those are my three. Jack really loves his wife. He thinks on-course in-tournament interviews are terrible. And he thinks Scottie Scheffler is in a league of their own. Now, what's interesting about this, of course, Rory was not here this week. I hope he called, Mr. Nicklaus about that because that was a news item last week. I think a little overplayed, to be honest. But you got the feeling that he was talking, and there have been some chatter on social media about the fact that the live golfers, of course, were not here, being Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm, naming a couple of their best, maybe their two best. Although, here's kind of a mini trivia question for you today. Who is leading the live standings this year? And it is Joaquin Niemann. So it's not DeChambeau or Rahm, it's Joaquin Niemann atop. And of course, you all know why live is live, right? Because it's the Roman numeral for 54 because they only play 54 holes, not 72 holes. That was the reason they went to live, just the Roman numeral for only 3 rounds. All right. Now let's look at our picks from Memorial and see how they did. We said that Scottie Scheffler was way too easy to pick, so we didn't. And that was true. My next one was Colin Morikawa. He started in second place in the first round with a 67 and then slid a little bit down to a tie for 20th. Sepp Straka, we mentioned, was by himself in third place. He opened with a 66. He had a 66 in the third round to really kind of move his way up the leaderboard on moving day and ended up in lone third. And then the ouch pick was Daniel Berger, who shot an 81 to begin with and a 72 to miss the cut. And that was our ouch pick of the week. Our hats off in the tournament goes to Justin Thomas, whose dad grew up in Zanesville. You're older than I at Zanesville High School. Won't go back through all that. You're welcome. But Justin Thomas shot an 80 in the first round, and you would think, well, that they kind of lose interest after that. He sure didn't. He shot a 69 on the second day to make the cut, right on the cut, and play the weekend, and did okay. Ended up over par, but again, big tip of the cap to Justin Thomas for fighting back in the second round and making the cut and showing everybody why you show up on Friday and do your job. So well done for him. Now, last thing about the Memorial, I found some of these. Here's some stuff for you to take away. And again, a little bit of water cooler talk. Do people still go to the water cooler? I have to think about that for a minute. They did in my era. That was the big thing. There were a lot of, like if you watch Laugh-In, for those of you that remember that show, they did skits in front of a water cooler. I'm not so sure anybody is that a thing? I don't know. Maybe not. You can always, by the way, when I say something wrong or stupid, often a combination of the two, you can email us at info@cbussports.com. Again, that's info, just like it sounds, at cbussports.com. CBus Sports has 2 S's in the middle there. But you can let us know what you think, or maybe I went a little astray. We're always glad to hear from you. Okay, Scotty Scheffler. Here's a few facts about Scotty from this week. Since May 4th, Scotty Scheffler has the same amount of wins as the Colorado Rockies. That would be 3. So the Rockies and Scheffler, 3 wins since May 4th. In this month of May, and we're including the Memorial since it started in May, he has won nearly $10 million. First at the Byron Nelson, the PGA, and the Memorial, and he was tied for 4th at the Charles Schwab last week, or the week before the Memorial. So almost $10 million. In 12 events this year, he is 140 under par. Staggering. 140 under par in 12 events. In his last 72 starts, since his first win, his next 72 starts, he has 62 top 25s. That's 86%. 51 top 10s. That's 71%. And 16 wins, 22.2% win percentage in his last 72 starts. Tiger's career win rate, again, not really fair because we're looking at Scheffler in kind of a concentrated, successful period. Tiger over his whole career, beginning and, of course, struggling a little bit toward the end. But Tiger is 21.7%. And I would say this, that may say more than Scotty's 22.2%. 21.7% for Tiger is incredible. I would not have guessed that high. So there you go. That's our Memorial wrap-up. Now, our goal for next year is to produce our show out at Muirfield, along with, I think, one radio station. At least one radio station did that this year. Don't know if anybody else did. But we would love to do our show out there next year. So we'll start our campaign now. The Clippers. Oh, yikes. They lost all 6 games in Rochester. And gosh, I listened to almost all of them with our friend Ryan Murphy. Let's see if we're going to go down here. Ryan Mitchell. I keep saying Murphy. Who is Ryan Murphy? I have to work on that. Sorry, Ryan. I know who you are. Oh, that was just an elder moment. So Ryan Mitchell, I listened to him, as you can tell, all week, but they lost. And actually, Bob McElligott was doing the game on Sunday. But it was just brutal. They lost yesterday 4-3 in a game that they led 2-1, tied 2-2 most of the time, but ended up falling 4-3. But man, Rochester, the Red Wings, had 3 walk-off games, and that just takes your heart out and stomps on it. But yesterday, yeah, just a tough one. Now, some good things that happened. Joey Cantillo, who's back with the Clippers after spending the first part of the season with the Cleveland Guardians, and really did not do badly there at all. He had 21 appearances, ERA of 3.81, was 1-0 with a save. So really didn't do badly, but maybe they wanted him to work on a couple things. So he's with the Clippers. And yesterday he went 3 innings, gave up a run on just a couple of hits. So he did well. So that was a bright spot to have him back and thrown well. Matt Crook, that's with a K, Krook, who they picked up off waivers from the A's, which I think is just the A's this year. They're playing in Sacramento, waiting a couple years to get into Vegas. He is a 30-year-old left-hander, but he pitched well as well. And some of the relief guys did well. Hitting-wise, the guy that is impressing me is C.J. Kafis, who is new to the team, came over during the season. But also, they've got Jonathan Rodriguez has just been, he leads the team in the power categories. Zach Kent had a bad day yesterday, but he's been throwing really well. It's been up with the Guardians at least 3 times this season. Brian Rocchio, who came back down from the Guardians, has played well since being back down. So there's a lot of good things, and they were in positions to win. Well, not really the first 2, but the last 4 they could have easily won any of those 4 games, and hopefully they'll shake it off coming back into the 614 area code, and they can get going because they will start tomorrow against the Toledo Mud Hens. Will come to town, and of course it'll be Dime Dog Night tomorrow night. And for my good friend, and I mean good friend, I've known Ryan for a long time, Ryan Mitchell, not Murphy. He'll be on the program tomorrow, and he can yell at me for saying his name wrong. Sorry about that. But anyway, Ryan Mitchell will be with us tomorrow. This is a week of guests. We had the executive producer, Alex Rao, just a little bit earlier today, but we'll have Ryan Mitchell tomorrow. Ed Francis will be with us on Wednesday from First Ohio Battery to talk about the NHL playoffs, which get underway that evening. And then one of my other sons, I have 3 sons and a daughter. One of my other sons, Casey, who lives in the New York metropolitan area in Hoboken, New Jersey. He is a film fanatic, as really my whole family is. I managed the Drexel Theater for a while because of my love for movies, but we all like them a bunch. But Casey will be on Friday to talk about his top 5 favorite golf movies. And the reason we're starting the roll as we get toward the release of Happy Gilmore 2 and closer, I'm not going to reveal all, but closer to the debut of that movie, we will have someone that was on set during the filming. So stay tuned for that. But this week, Casey Rao, middle son, will be on the program to talk about his top 5 golf movies. So our guests, Ryan Mitchell tomorrow, Ed Francis on Wednesday. Casey will be here on Friday, and we may pick up somebody for Thursday along the way. We'll let you know. Want to kind of fill in the blanks for a couple of things that we left you hanging on. Boys volleyball, the OHSAA state tournament was this weekend, and unfortunately, Thomas Worthington fell, as did Mount Vernon. Thomas Worthington fell to St. Ignatius in a monumental 5-set game. There it is, 5-set game. In fact, the last one was 16-14. Thomas Worthington was up early in that 5th set, but wow, just couldn't quite get there, and they will take up the runner-up trophy. But congrats for a great season. Thomas Worthington finishes 21-4. Mount Vernon fell in the Division II final to Archbishop McNicholas, who defended their state title. Mount Vernon was kind of the team that just battled. They finished 17-11 and upset some folks on the way there and just came up short in the state final, finished runner-up, and kudos to them. Going around the horn here, we've got we want to get everybody. Oh, tennis. Yeah, absolutely. We had 3 of the 4 categories in boys tennis up at Worcester, where they played indoors on Friday to get things done. In Division I doubles, Abhinav Dandu and Jackson Clements, a couple of seniors, won Division I doubles. They are from New Albany. So again, Abhinav Dandu, Jackson Clements, both seniors out of New Albany, win the Division I doubles. Division II doubles won by senior Sam Lassard and his brother Henry Lassard, who was a sophomore. Henry last year won the Division II singles title. They are out of Bexley, and they captured the Division II doubles. What a fun thing that is for brothers to win a state title together. And in Division II singles out of Columbus Academy, Nason Lowe, a junior, won the singles. Will we see Henry Lassard and Nason Lowe next year vying for a singles championship if Henry goes back to singles competition? We will have to wait and see. We've covered those. I think we've hit the notes. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about this week as the week goes on. We want to mention, of course, we've got state titles going on this week in softball at Firestone Firestone Field up in Akron. And I will actually be there Thursday morning to watch Liberty Union and then mad dash it back to the studio to talk about it at 3 o'clock that afternoon. We've also got track and field. I'm going to try to stop by there on Friday, but we'll have our ace photographer, John Hulkenberg, will be at the state track meet back in Columbus at Jesse Owens on the Ohio State campus. That'll be Friday and Saturday. I'm going to stop by there on Friday. And then Saturday, I will be at the girls lacrosse. There are a couple of games there from Division I and Division II, and we'll talk more about that preview probably Thursday leading into the weekend. And then the boys lacrosse is on Sunday. Both the lacrosse championships both days of the championship will be at historic Crew Stadium up as you go up 71 there. So we'll hope to see you there and cheer on the locals. Again, just looking one more time, forget to the trivia question. Ryan Mitchell. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe he could change his name to Murphy. That would make it easier for me. Ryan Mitchell will be here tomorrow, and he can mispronounce my name all segment. The Clippers play-by-play announcer will find out what's going on with the Clips, get them back on the winning side in advance of Diamond Dog Tuesday night. Also got a neat promotion coming up over the weekend, Princesses and Pirates. I believe that's on Sunday. You should read all about that on the Clippers website, but always something going on each night at Huntington Park, which is one of the, if not the most beautiful stadium in the country, minor league ballpark. Just a tremendous place to watch a game. I will be there tomorrow night. And it's hard to do the job and eat a lot of hot dogs, but it might be worth the try. We'll see. Okay, last trivia question that we asked you was about the Memorial Tournament. It was who was the first two-time winner of the Memorial at Muirfield. The second one was a playoff win over Andy Bean. Well, it was the host, Jack Nicklaus. He won it in the second year of the tournament in 1977. And then in 1984, he beat Andy Bean in that, I don't think historic playoff, but it was a playoff. We'll say that about it. All right, today's question, as we talked about, and we'll talk more about this week, the Ohio State athletes going to the NCAA track and field finals in Eugene, Oregon this week. Who was the last Ohio State track and field athlete to win an NCAA title? We will answer that one for you tomorrow. But again, who was the last Buckeye track and field athlete to win an NCAA title? Not all that long ago, I will tell you, because they're pretty good. We'll have that for you tomorrow. Well, we thank Alex Rouch for jumping on today after we heard about the tragic news of John Burkus, who created sports science, passing away on Saturday. Thanks, Alex, for talking with us about that. So many things to work on. We've got so many stories in the hopper that we're trying to get caught up on. So always take a look at cbussports.com to see what is going on. But we are getting ready to jump right on out of here. You can hear the music. I slipped on the fader. Just let me say that. Just totally slipped on the fader. That will do it for us today. I'm Kevin Rouch. On behalf of the whole team here at the Daily Scrum, we hope you have a great day.